5 Live Formula One.
Saddle up, grab your cowboy hats. F1 has gone full Texas this weekend as we arrive for round 19 of the Formula One World Championship. It's the US Grand Prix right here in the Lone Star State. 6 Grand Prix, 3 sprints left to roll, and a Drivers' Championship that rumbles on. It's Harry Benjamin with you here in the paddock of the Circuit of the Americas, with the sun beating down on us in between the clouds, and drivers and team personnel rushing back and forth on Thursday. And over the next hour, we've got a jam-packed preview coming your way as well. We're near the airport too, so you might be able to hear some of the aeroplanes coming in for landing or taking off. What we've got coming up, well, we'll get stuck into the good and the bad for McLaren from Singapore. Are the gloves off for Piastri and Norris now they've wrapped up the Constructors' title? As we're in the States, we're going to catch up with Haas driver Ollie Behrman and talk F1 stateside. But the stars of the show, arguably, are the 3 people stood alongside me: the former Renault Formula One driver Jolyon Palmer, Jenny Gow and Andrew Benson. Welcome, team. Jen, I know you're partial to a cowboy hat. Where is it today? It's not on your head.
I'm so sorry. I left it on the plane. It was just too heavy for me to move out and it all got forgotten. And so Andrew Benson is the token hat wearer for, I think, our whole team. I don't suit a hat. And you put it off really well, although it's not even nearly a cowboy hat, is it?
It has a brim, Jenny, but I'm not sure I'm a hat wearer really either. I'm kind of obligated by the lack of filling to my hair follicles.
Well, look, more hat chat later. One man who's absolutely not wearing a cowboy hat is Jolyon Palmer. Have you ever been tempted in your time coming to Austin over the years?
I'm not going to come into the paddock wearing a cowboy hat. That's not me. I think when I was younger, you'd go for the old cowboy. Everyone's got to be a cowboy at some point.
It's a good Halloween
I've
costume,
grown up
maybe?
now, Harry. That's all. I've grown up.
You've become an adult. Yeah. Well, everyone seems to love coming to Austin, and you know, it's the home of the US Grand Prix. From each of you, I want a different answer though. Why is it deemed as one of the more popular races on the calendar?
Okay, well, it's a great track and you get really good racing in a fun place. I've probably taken all 3 of the best answers there, but fill your boots.
Jolyon's absolutely right. It is a great track. It's one of the very few new tracks that really feels like a classic track. And Austin is just a brilliant place to come. There's a great vibe to the city. There's live music on pretty much every street corner in downtown Austin, and nice food as well. And of course this weekend as well, that we've got the weather too.
And I think if you look at the track as well, it's got elements from some of the best racing tracks around the world. So it integrated bits of Istanbul Park, Silverstone. I think there's a lot going on. And as you go up the straight and up to the first turn, that epic run in, it's the height of the Eiffel Tower.
Is it?
No, it's not. I'll tell you what.
It's quite high. I didn't know it was that high.
I did lots of research and that stuck out, but it wasn't that. Sorry, it's the Statue of Liberty from toe to torch. So it's 41 metres from toe to torch, and this is the same run. So I was in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I should have stayed in the US.
It was the size of a serious landmark.
Exactly,
yeah.
I nailed that.
It's very tall. But I also think we're quite lucky with F1 because, I mean, we obviously we don't get to choose the calendar, but this circuit was built for the first race in 2012, and I don't know if I'm a city snob or not, but Austin is a really cool place to come. The US is full of big cities. We go to Miami, we go to Vegas now as well. And I just love coming to Austin as somewhere that is not hosting all that many massive sports events. It's a fun one for Formula One to come to.
Favourite ever memory of Austin, on or off the track, Jolyon?
I've got a really fond memory of the first race here.
Yeah.
2012, Lewis Hamilton won it with a great overtake on Sebastian Vettel. There was the championship ramifications going on as well. Alonso trying to keep himself in the hunt. And it was the first time we've been here, and it was a great race. That's mine.
I should have done my research, but I didn't. How did you perform around here?
Admirably, Harry. Admirably.
We'll leave it at that.
I finished outside of the points.
Well, you know, that's tough.
I can't remember where I finished. Maybe 12th or 13th or something.
That's not too shabby. Jenny, favourite Austin memory?
Probably if we're talking about the paddock, because there are lots of memories of lots of different things that happen here. But in the paddock, I think it would be Lewis Hamilton winning his 3rd world title and Sir Jackie Stewart going over to him. When he was in the media pen, he had the flag draped around him and so Jackie went up and sort of handed over the baton to Lewis, and that was quite a big memory in my memory banks.
And Andrew Benson?
Well, so many memories here, Harry. I mean, the hurricane of 2015,
Oh, wow, yes.
when one of the days was rained off, basically, that was pretty dramatic. Hatgate was the same year when Lewis Hamilton threw the second place hat at Nico Rosberg, his teammate, having just won the championship, and Rosberg threw it back at him. And as Jolene says, it's just sometimes you can't remember your memories from Austin. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good sign. I tell you what, a little birdie told me that yesterday was someone's birthday, Mr. Benson.
I told you.
You did tell me
It was my birthday.
And what are we doing tonight? Pete's Dueling Piano Bar for celebrations?
Jenny and I have been taken out for dinner by Aston Martin tonight, actually. I think you're going big on the steak, aren't you, from what I heard?
Yeah, no, well, I think me, Palmer, and I think we've nabbed Damon Hill to come and have a bit of barbecue for the evening. You up for that, Palmer?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's what's coming up for us anyway this evening. But first, let's bring you up to speed with how the championship is looking. So McLaren confirmed as constructors champions last time out. That is done and dusted. Mercedes sits second with Ferrari behind and Red Bull fourth, only 8 points behind Ferrari. So things could all still change behind the title winners. The Drivers' Championship, though, that is hotting up. Lando Norris continues to plug away at teammate Oscar Piastri's lead. The gap is now down to 22 points. With 6 races remaining, Max Verstappen sits third, 41 points adrift. But it was under the lights in Singapore that McLaren became 10-time Constructors' champions, Jenny. I mean, if we just reflect on that feat, twice in a row, having come from almost the bottom of the grid a few years ago, it's a proper turnaround on track and off it for the team. And you were there soaking up all the atmosphere.
And it was quite emotional for the team. First time they did it, gold ticket 8 raining down in Abu Dhabi. It was the last race of the season. They left it a bit later. This one wrapped up with 6 races still to go. They had little circular tissue paper that almost red falling from the sky around us as we celebrated with them in the pit lane. And a lot's been made of the war of the drivers, and will it all kick off, and will they end up throwing hats at each other like Rosberg and Hamilton did years ago? But actually, it seemed fairly calm. It seemed fairly amicable between the two men when they did finally come out and celebrate with the team. And, it was a good celebration. As you say, it almost seems impossible to look at that story and see their rise from, as you say, almost the back of the grid to being at the front of the grid, challenging for the drivers' title, the championship, the constructors' title. I mean, it's so impressive what they've been able to do. And we've spoken quite a lot about how they've been able to do it. But you just have to sit back and go, crikey, that's so impressive.
Well, Andrew, how much of this do we need to credit the management team and the turnaround there within the internal structure? People like Andrea Stella, the team principal, and Zach Brown, the CEO.
Well, when Zach Brown joined McLaren towards the end of 2016, they had no sponsors and they were at the back of the grid, basically. They've been through a rebuilding process since then, some infrastructure that's been built, wind tunnel, for example. But then I think probably the key development, having set all that in process, was appointing Andrea Stella, the team principal. He did a bit of tweaking around the technical structure of the team, but more than anything, he changed the culture. And it's the same people who were at McLaren when they were at the back of the grid. Within 6 months of Stella becoming team principal, they were Red Bull's biggest challengers in the middle of 2023. From then, they've gone into 2024, become Constructors' champions, and now they've basically dominated this year. A season that everybody thought when they started it, would be a really close battle between Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren for the championship. It hasn't worked out that way because of this innovative car that they produced under Stella's leadership. So I think much of the credit, and many people in McLaren would say, it goes to Stella and the way he's run this team since he took over.
I mean, it's certainly a turnaround with on-track performance, but even off-track, with all the sponsors that are now on the car, they've basically rebranded since they turned papaya and changed the livery of the McLaren car. We're outside the hospitality still with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri's faces adorned on the windows, looking rather ominous, staring at us. But it's quite calm at the moment. But Jolene, they've got 2 top-rate drivers as well that are battling it out for what could be their first World Drivers' Championship. And it's almost been a change of the game when it comes to how drivers fight each other in terms of being the same teammates that McLaren have tried to instill this year. What have you made of the two drivers and their contributions as well to McLaren's turnaround?
Oh yeah, I think they're great drivers. I think the McLaren have done a really good job at creating a harmonious environment for the two of them. Obviously, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris. They're in a title fight, yet they're still kind of getting on quite well, considering it's this stage of the season. We've seen a lot more animosity between teammates in the past, certainly thinking back to Mercedes having their duels between Rosberg and Hamilton. McLaren and Alonso and Hamilton even more so. Yeah. So that, you've seen proper bust-ups between teammates. And McLaren have done a good job at keeping the drivers both very happy, and they're hunting their first title. So this is the most meaningful title that one of them will ever win.
We've still got 6 races to go, 3 sprints left to run as well, and a bit of fallout from Singapore. And actually, firstly, Andrew, I wonder if you could just set the scene for us of what happened in Singapore between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris on track that really ended up with Oscar Piastri feeling quite aggrieved with how they're going racing and the team orders that McLaren are trying to impose for fairness.
Well, yeah, team orders is definitely not what they're imposing, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So Piastri started 3rd, Norris started 5th. At the first corner, Norris went for a move on Piastri. Piastri left the door open on his teammate into turn 3. And Norris kind of got things in a bit of a muddle. He left his braking too late. He hit the back of Max Verstappen's Red Bull in front of him, broke part of his front wing, and that knocked him sideways into Piastri. And rule number 1, although it's not rules, McLaren think of it as a framework rather than rules. But anyway, terminologies and all the rest of it. Rule number 1 is don't hit your teammate. So that's why Piastri was upset, because he felt he'd been barged out of the way, as he put it on the radio, more or less. So that was the situation. They've reviewed it since then, and I'm told that Norris has accepted that he was at fault. Now, at the time, the team took no action in the race because they felt there wasn't enough evidence. Having fully reviewed it, they do see what we all saw at the time, which was that Norris got it wrong, hit Verstappen, slid into Piastri. And there will be consequences for Norris as a consequence. We just don't know what those consequences are because they're not telling us.
And what do you think McLaren should have done then?
Well, I think this is the interesting question, Jolene, isn't it? Because I think in that scenario you can see why they wouldn't make any changes to the race order, because it was a relatively innocuous incident, On the other hand, if you look at it from Piastri's point of view, he's been on the receiving end of a couple of situations around these racing guidelines, racing framework, whatever you want to call it, that McLaren have been operating this year, and this was another one. And you could see why he would think, well, actually, something should have happened here. They should have reversed the positions. I'm going to throw the question back at you in a minute, actually. But one thing I want to say is one thing that's really amusing about this and ironic is that everybody in the paddock's been referring to it as papaya rules since Tom Stallard, Oscar Piastri's race engineer, first said that to Piastri in the Italian Grand Prix in 2024. That phrase, I'm told, has never been uttered by anyone at McLaren other than Tom Stallard. Good though,
doesn't it?
On that moment. And the thing is, it's been so catchy, and now the whole paddock's saying it, and the McLaren are going, we never talk about papaya rules, why is everybody else talking about it? But Julian, I'm going to ask you that same question you asked me. What do you think? Should they have done anything, or was it just one of those things?
It's one of those things. Then this is the problem I think McLaren have got themselves into. Personally, we spoke about it after Monza. I don't think they should have swapped the drivers around in Monza either. And this is where they made a rub for their own back by swapping Norris to go back ahead of Piastri after Norris's slow stop. And you just think it's racing. It's Formula One. It happens. Piastri had a slow stop in Singapore. It didn't cost him anything. But, it goes both ways. But McLaren kind of there was a knee-jerk reaction in Monza with not many laps left, thinking that they'd cost Lando some points. And you could see the logic. But I think that is what makes the Singapore situation a little bit more interesting, is that they have manipulated the results in the past, but it's very difficult to keep doing that and keep fairness. And the move from Norris, the stewards weren't interested in it. It was absolutely fine to my racing eye that's watched racing for a long time. Yeah, there was a little bit of contact, but no one was sent spinning, no one was sent off. The only one that had any lasting damage was Norris himself. It was absolutely fine in the normal way of racing.
There's definitely an argument that by trying to be fair, they're overcomplicating things. It kind of started this year in Hungary where Norris made a bit of a mess of the run to the first corner trying to challenge Piastri, ended up dropping down to 5th place while Piastri was challenging Charles Leclerc of Ferrari, who's just walked past us, by the way, on his birthday. So I didn't know that my birthday was one day before
birthday.
Charles's. Anyway, I'll maybe talk to him about that later. But
That's my one for his birthday. Charles Benson.
but Norris went on a different strategy, and some people in the paddock think it wasn't really fair of McLaren to allow their driver who dropped to 5th on the first lap to then end up beating his teammate with a strategy that he diverted to almost by accident.
Are you one of those people in the paddock?
I'm not expressing an opinion, I'm just reporting other people's opinions. That's my job. Then you got Monza, where, as you say, Jolien, they'd got themselves into that situation because they were trying to have their cake and eat it, as I think was a phrase you used when we were doing a podcast a few weeks ago. Norris should have pitted first because he was the lead driver in that scenario. They pitted him second because he didn't want to get caught out by a safety car. But then he got caught out by a bad stop. Well, and then Piastri's upset because he said, well, I thought we agreed that slow stops were something that the team wouldn't intervene to correct. But they did in that scenario. And now we have Singapore, where again, Piastri's had a situation where he thinks, well, hang on, he's broken the rules by hitting me and nothing's happened to him. So I'm just really interested to find out if we get to know sooner or later what these consequences for Norris are going to be.
Yeah, but they can't. It feels harsh for it to be a meaningful consequence moving forward. What do? Swap the positions in the race this time? Cost him positions on the grid? It's difficult to find the right sanction for something that's happened 2 weeks ago. And in all of it, what you have to say is that what I said at the top of the show, the way that they're keeping the drivers very happy and they're trying to really keep the state of play, keep the fairness between them. But in the end, when you're fighting for a title, it is such a difficult thing. And maybe they're realising why the people of yesteryear didn't go out of their way to manipulate all of the races in this exact way.
I think what's interesting here is that this is all a corollary of this philosophy that Andrea Stella, the team principal, has created to try to ensure that his team doesn't fall foul of what normally happens when teammates are going for the championship. You know, you think back to Mansell and Piquet at Williams in the 80s, Senna and Prost at McLaren in the 80s and 90s. Then you've got Hamilton and Rosberg at Mercedes, Vettel and Webber at Red Bull. It always happens, and what normally ends up happening is that they fall out and one of them has to end up leaving the team. And Stella doesn't want that to happen. Both drivers are under contract for a number of years to come, at least 2 in both cases. And he wants to build on this and create a legacy for McLaren with those 2 drivers. So the very last thing McLaren want is any kind of disruption to that harmony. And it's remarkable, it's as remarkable as the technical achievement they've made, that he's managed so far to keep a lid on the tension.
And do you think, even though all of us, as kind of the media, are waiting for it to all blow up, that actually it won't? I mean, we're waiting for them to fall out and for someone, basically, at McLaren to have to leave, because that's how we know the story goes. But do you think they're good enough to be able to keep both of their drivers happy going forward?
I don't know, Jenny, but I mean, I think it's incredible that they've managed to keep them happy so far. And Andrea Stella, he's been at McLaren now for just over 10 years. Before that, let's not forget, he was at Ferrari. And he saw the other side of the team orders scenario there. They had Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello and then Felipe Massa. Michael Schumacher was a dominant number 1. Then they had Fernando Alonso and Felipe Massa. Again, Alonso was a dominant number 1. There were team order situations there. Alonso ended up falling out of trust and faith with the team. The team didn't help in that scenario. Alonso didn't help himself in that scenario. Stella was his race engineer and was really good friends with him and remains really good friends with him to this day. And they've just, by the way, got a new communications director at McLaren, Luca Colliani, who was at Ferrari during all of that period. Him and Stella are good friends. So the lessons have been learned. They're being applied. Whether they can succeed in their aim is the big question.
So to me, a lot of it is, in that if you look at the past, someone has gone against team orders at some point to create their own advantage within the team. If you look at Hamilton, Alonso and McLaren, Rosberg and Hamilton at Mercedes, there's someone that's sort of gaming the system to take an advantage. That's not really happened at McLaren. It's their own system that's choosing which way the cards fall at the end. But it's the example now is the drivers I still think are harmonious. I think there's definitely a level of tension that there hasn't been yet. I think it's bubbling away, but they're still harmonious. But if Norris is, let's say he's taken the blame for Singapore, the team want to scupper him with a level of consequence that we don't know yet. If he was to actually say, no, you know what, there's 6 races left, I'm still 22 points down in the championship, stuff it. I'm going to go and do my thing my way and just take some more points on Piastri this weekend. That's the sort of thing that we've seen in the past, especially from some of the champions in the past as well. And that's the sort of thing that could blow this completely wide open.
That's the thing, right? And it would be a testament to Andrea Stella and his influence if they do keep everything even and all the way to the end. But surely, when you're Oscar Piastri, as Andrew was saying, giving a whole list of the previous drivers that have all broken some sort of team order to get that advantage going for a title, Piastri's got Mark Webber in his corner as manager. Lando Norris is a management team around him as well. It's their first ever World Championship in Formula One. Next year is a reset. McLaren, who knows where McLaren are going to be in the competitive order? You've got to go and be selfish and all out now.
And that's what we haven't yet. Seen it.
F1 doesn't want harmony. I don't want harmony.
But both of the drivers are very respectful of the greater good of McLaren, and they are just obeying. Even the way that Piastri got out of the way for Norris, we were like,
that's not happening.
Is he going to do that? That's a punchy one for him. He can just finish ahead now. The championship lead could have ballooned out at the time. Instead, it came down by 3 points. But the fact that he just obeyed the team orders and the fact that they're all just listening to McLaren and going with it is the fascinating thing. It's like there's a chance for one of them to play. Do you remember the show Golden Balls, where you could split or steal? They're both splitting at the
Best
moment. No one's choosing steel. Yeah.
Well, let's hear from the two drivers, starting with Oscar Piastri.
I think that the talks from Singapore were very productive with everyone involved. I think, the conclusion was what happened in Singapore is not how we want to go racing as a team, and ultimately Lando's taken responsibility for that. So, that's in the past now, and the rules won't change because of that. I think, ultimately we've got that framework in place for a reason, and that there's no reason for that to change now. So it's been dealt with, and now looking forward to the future.
There are and will be repercussions for me to the end of the season. So it's not like I've got away with anything, but it was also an incident that let's say was small, and there was potential to try and avoid it. It's something I never want to. I said it back after the race. I can't afford to make contact and have anything happen like what happened, because I put just as much risk on my whole championship from something going wrong as I do on whoever I might be racing against. So of course repercussions for myself, but otherwise the engagement and how we go racing is the same as it's always been.
They've bought into the philosophy, and one of the things that Norris and Piastri have both repeatedly said this season is one of our advantages as a team is having two drivers who are able to compete right at the front together. That drives both of them on, and they believe it drives the team forward. And they've drawn a negative comparison with teams like Red Bull, like Mercedes, where those two drivers are not at the same level, and they believe that that's a good thing for McLaren. And so while they're buying Stella's arguments, PR, management speak, whatever you want to call it, it'll stay under control. The question becomes when we're 6 races out from the end of the season now, it might all fizzle out and Piastri wins with a couple of races to go. But if it goes down to Abu Dhabi and there's a few points in it and there's a world championship on the line, that's the sort of peak tension moment where we're really going to see just how firm this philosophy holds.
Someone's got to do the steal button. That's what we're waiting for, someone to go for that.
That is the best use of a reference, I think, in any podcast you've ever done to bring up Golden Balls. Fantastic.
I'm also intrigued to know how much the team around them, as you said, will interfere with that smooth sailing, smooth running, because you've got Mark Webber, who is fighting for Oscar Piastri in his corner, and you've got Lando Norris and his team that are fighting for their man and their corner. And they also have to buy into that McLaren philosophy in order for it to work. You can't have someone whispering into their driver's ear, you go for it, this is your championship, this is your time to shine. And for the team also to have their philosophy, which is we're together in this, we win and lose as a team together.
Well, one of the things that's interesting about the way they dealt with the fallout from Singapore, I'm told, is that Webber and Norris's manager Mark Berryman were not involved in those conversations. It was just the drivers and Stella and the rest of the senior management team of McLaren, which I think that says quite a lot about the way Stella's running the team and the control he's exerting over everything. So let's see how it all plays out.
I don't want harmony. I don't think that's what Formula One's about. I think we need gloves off now to the end of the season. To a modern day reference, maybe, instead of golden balls. If you've seen The Traitors, one of them's got to be a traitor. The other one might stay faithful, or they might both be traitors. But someone's got to pull the trigger at some point, Palmer, and just elbows out. And if one of them is asked to give back a place in a race, that is not happening for the rest of the season. Surely, I cannot get my brain around that.
I just want, from a sporting point of view, the results to not be manipulated by McLaren's view of fairness. I want it to just play out on track. I think that's what the sport deserves at the end of this year. We want a title fight. I mean, there is obviously Max Verstappen somewhere in the background, just in case they do collide or something. But I just want to see. If they'd have swapped the places in Singapore, I could see Piastri's argument that may be the fair way, but that really sucks the life out of the sport, doesn't it? If McLaren are just choosing based on their ethics, not the stewards, based on their own internal policy, who's going to be ahead.
You don't want that kind of over manipulation almost of how you go racing. Okay, but 22 points between them. Piastri with the advantage, but does that necessarily mean he's got that momentum, that lovely M word we love using so much? It's less than a race win now between them.
Yeah, he's not got the momentum. He's got the advantage.
Yeah, he's not been on the podium for the last two races.
And Baku was miserable for him. McLaren generally don't have the momentum themselves, but it's actually been a long time since Piastri, you can look and say he was just quicker than Norris over a race weekend. I think since the summer break, there's not been a single race where he's been definitively stronger than Norris, and that was the case more often than not in the first half of the year. So that's definitely something that's going to be in the back of his mind. I think Lando's getting stronger, but again, there's the Verstappen issue for Lando, which is that Max is winning races and taking away that 7-point buffer of a first to a second. It's now a second to a third, which is only 3 points. Norris needs to start winning.
It's been remarkably even, hasn't it? So Piastri was the lead. You could argue he was qualified ahead in Zandvoort, but the race was very close until Norris had his engine failure.
The Zandvoort one is someone would say maybe Piastri was ahead, but it was only one lap in qualifying that was the difference.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it was a slipstream even over the end of that lap that was the difference. Yeah. And then it felt to me like Norris was actually quicker in the race, but it's difficult to do much in the dirty air.
Yeah, and then you got Monza where it was the other way around, Baku where Piastri had his sort of nightmare weekend, and then last weekend in Singapore again Piastri qualified ahead, but once Norris got ahead at the first corner, then Piastri wasn't really able to stay with him for most of the race. He was not far behind, but just not quite on his pace. So you're absolutely right, it's been really, really hard to choose between them, and the Verstappen factor is really complicating things for them.
Yeah, but Piastri's race at Singapore was a little bit surprisingly underwhelming, considering how close Norris could follow Verstappen for such a long time.
Is there a slight worry, though, that we know McLaren haven't and are not bringing any upgrades now to their car for the rest of the year and haven't been doing so? But we know Red Bull still have a few tweaks. Mercedes brought a little bit of front wing last time out in Singapore. Is that a reason why we're starting to see a bit of a slump in performance from McLaren?
It's a downturn, should we say, rather than a complete slump. Yeah, they're still fighting for wins. They'll still be absolutely in contention for wins with both drivers this weekend, I think. And also, when you look at the points difference, if Verstappen wins every race and every sprint, Norris finishes second, Piastri finishes third, Piastri will be tied on points with Verstappen at the end of the year. So basically, it's very much in McLaren's hands. Unless they run into each other, that will open the door for more Verstappen permutations. But it's still going to be between one of them, even if they don't really win a race for the rest of the year, which they probably will do.
And if we look back at the last couple of races where McLaren haven't had that form, it's because they were never predicted to. Andreas was very honest about that, saying there were tracks that didn't suit the car that well. This is another one that he called out, saying it might not suit them too well, but as you go forward, looking down the line, there are tracks that will really suit them. And I still think this weekend it's for McLaren to lose.
Oh, all right, everyone, and breathe. Don't worry, there's still plenty more to come. We're going to be catching up with the Haas rookie, Ollie Behrman, later on. We've got the latest news from Mercedes too, and what to expect on track this weekend. Will it be, as Jenny says, McLaren's to lose? I actually believe, Benny, you've got to run off somewhere now, haven't you? Where are you going?
Work.
Work. Oh,
Other work.
Other work. How ambiguous. Okay, and Palmer, I think you're leaving. Are you driving the track now?
Driving the track.
Ooh,
yeah,
what are you driving?
dusting off the cobwebs. A McLaren.
Ooh.
So just as well, I think I just said loads of nice things about them.
Have you got any VIPs in the passenger seat?
I've got IndyCar legend James Hinchcliffe coming around with me.
Okay, so this is once again Palmer defecting to the TV, isn't
Otherwise known as F1 TV colleague of Jolyon Palmer.
Right. We are going to have to leave things there.
5 Live Formula One.
It's still quite muggy, overcast here in Austin. We've wandered down a few feet and grabbed a table, actually, outside of the Aston Martin hospitality. I am still sweating. But even though we've lost a few members of the team, do not fear, because we have upgraded to a man who has done so many jobs. You know, I wasn't actually quite sure how to introduce him, so I've defaulted to his Instagram bio.
Oh, no.
So joining us now is broadcaster, New York Times best-selling author, voice artist, and of course F1 presenter and now IndyCar's lead commentator, Will Buxton. Welcome to the 5 Live gang, Will.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be back.
Did I cover everything?
I think so. Yes.
Are you not one of the consultants when it came to the F1 movie as well?
I believe that's what my credit was at the end, and also appearing as himself, which was lovely. That was a wild experience.
I bet. I mean, well, I want to come on to that, but first of all, we've just been chatting for ages about McLaren and all of the outpour from Singapore and papaya rules, and now that the McLaren have won the Constructors' Championship, is it gloves off for Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris? I'd just love to get your thoughts on what you would like to see happen and what you think is going to happen over the course of, well, the last quarter of the season.
Obviously, we all want to see gloves off, and you want to see two drivers fighting it out for the Formula One World Championship. I don't think the Constructors was ever in doubt from the first lap turned in pre-season testing. It was theirs. They've had the dominant car of the season. What's frustrated me watching on has been the attempt to micromanage at every turn this season and the relationship between the drivers. And, you know, both fan bases are going to have kept receipts for everything that happened all the way through this year. But the problem is that you cannot compensate for everything that happens in motorsport. Some things happen completely out of the team's control at various times throughout the year, and you can't make up for every single one of them. What's been fascinating for me is looking at Singapore, looking at Silverstone, when Oscar expected to have 2 incidents overturned in his favour, you start to ask the question of, well, this must be more than just contact between the drivers. There is a feeling that these minuscule moments they've discussed as being enabled to be overturned. And so the fan base are going to see that as manipulation, not as micromanagement, but as manipulation. And I fear that if Oscar wins this championship, it will be overshadowed, just as his first win was overshadowed by that manipulation and micromanagement of that race in Hungary last year. And that something like this stands to overshadow the incredible achievement for McLaren of taking Constructors and Drivers' Championships, having turned around the dire straits they were in 2-3 years ago, where they couldn't get themselves off the bottom of the grid for love nor money. You know, it's a shame because they just haven't needed to do it, and it leaves a sour taste.
It's almost in trying to over-control it, they're going to undermine all the hard work they've done. I was going to say it's almost a bit of a stark contrast, quite a powerful statement with this lovely kind of, I don't know, we're calling it jazz music underscoring us in the background.
It's sort of a smooth samba.
Yeah, no, it's quite nice, isn't it? The Aston Martin playlist is rocking.
It's Buxton's entry music to the podcast. It's just nailed it.
I love that.
I just wanted to know, I mean, you're pretty much half American now. You spend a lot of time over here. And I'm terming you as the token neutral for this show because we're obviously both British. The guys before, both British. You are British, but you spend a lot of time over here. Do you think there's a danger when people say to us they're favouriting Norris, they're favouriting Piastri? I did an interview with ABC last night in Australia, and they're absolutely convinced that McLaren are favouriting Norris. Do you see any of that playing out?
I think the difficulty is when people start to connect dots. And we live in a social media age where perception is 99% reality. And people love coming up with conspiracies to back up, you know, their beliefs on things. Zach Brown was a director of Lando's company up until halfway through this year. People are going to see that as a conflict of interest. There's a high court case at the moment between Zach Brown and Alex Palou, who's the IndyCar champion, over a contract that was reneged upon when, on the record, Palou is, down as having said that he ultimately had to pull out of that contract because they signed Piastri, but to the best of his knowledge, Piastri was not the driver that Zach Brown ever wanted to sign. Again, chalk one up for the Oscar Piastri fans who feel that their driver is being sort of decided against by team strategies. I think it would be churlish and foolish to imagine that a team in their position would ever seek to favour one driver over another. But when so much keeps happening that appears to favour one driver, and that driver is not the one who is leading the World Championship, it just feels a bit off.
No, and you can't ignore what's being said about that. And we're going to continue talking about it throughout the weekend. You can get in touch as well. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll debate them in practice as well. You can email us f1@bbc.co.uk or use the hashtag BBCF1 on X. Now, we are in America, in Austin, the home of the US Grand Prix. 3 US races. We've got the huge F1 movie, Drive to Survive, really helped crack America, or at least help Formula One break into the States. Has F1 well and truly cracked stateside now?
It still has a way to go, I think. Until you're beating NASCAR week in, week out, then I can't say that it is the most popular form of motorsport out here, because it's not, because NASCAR are consistently getting 3 million plus viewers a week, and F1 is getting around 1 million viewers a week. So it's not quite at that level yet. But is it the most popular and the most successful it has ever been here? 100%. America has been around at the Formula One World Championship right from the very start, right from 1950, where the Indy 500 was around at the World Championship for the first 10 years. So the American market has always been key for Formula One, but it's never broken it. They've had more venues in America than any other country on earth in that attempt to try and find a place that was its home. And I think it was here. I actually think it was this race, getting onto the calendar back in 2012, that first started to establish those roots into America. And I think without this race, Liberty Media might not have had the interest that they ended up having in Formula One and wanting to purchase it and seeing the potential that existed in this sport. But since Liberty took over to now, Formula One's actual viewership stateside, has only really doubled. It's gone from about 500,000 to 1.1, 1.2 million average over the course of the season. So there is still space, there is still scope for it. But the difficulty is, and it is something that Formula One has always struggled against and will always struggle against, is that American sport and American sporting fans are intrinsically loyal. They are loyal to city, they are loyal to state, they are loyal to college. That's where their fanaticism lies, and being able to see their teams play week in, week out. A championship that only came over here once a year could never hope to have that level of loyalty. And so while 3 stops on the calendar is certainly beneficial for Formula One, it's never going to have, I don't think, that same draw as a NASCAR, potentially an IndyCar, and, because it's not a solely American championship, and it doesn't have an American driver or a true American team. Now it will with Cadillac.
Oh, you beat me to my next question, Will. Go on. Well, we got Haas, obviously the American team, but Cadillac really feels like they're going to be the true American team next year. But there's no American in their main driver lineup.
No.
So is that the key next?
I think the American driver needs to be somebody who's there absolutely totally on merit as being, the best open-wheel driver that America has to offer. I think Colton Herta is very talented. He hasn't got himself to the place where he can get a super license yet. And for those who aren't aware, Colton Herta is an IndyCar driver, multiple race winner out there, the highest paid IndyCar driver currently. And he's actually signed to leave IndyCar to come and race in Formula 2 next year to those points to get a super license to race in Formula One. Is he the best that America has to offer? I don't believe he is. I think a driver like Kyle Kirkwood and NASCAR's Connor Zilic actually have far more potential. But I applaud Colton for taking that enormous leap. It's hugely brave, because he's putting his reputation on the line to come and do this and chase his dream. And I really applaud that for him. I'm fascinated to see how Cadillac do. They will be a factory outfit. We haven't had a new factory team, so a team that makes its own car and makes its own engine, since Toyota came into this sport over 20 years ago. So this is something that is rare in Formula One history. I can't wait to see what they do. I really can't. I think it's going to be fascinating.
Well, talking of America, as we said, we do have, there's still an American team on the grid in the form of Haas. Every couple of months, we've been checking in with Haas driver and rookie this season, Ollie Behrman. Spoke to him in Melbourne, Monaco and Silverstone. We're about to hear from him, but first of all, team, thoughts on Behrman's rookie season so far? Jen?
I've been impressed. It started off relatively slowly, but I think he's gained confidence, he's gained points, and that's so important for Haas. They needed two drivers to be able to turn up and bring points to the table. I was impressed with him when he joined Ferrari at late notice, covering for Carlos Sainz. And ever since that point, I think he's gone on and impressed. And I think actually there's more to come from him. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him in a Ferrari in the next 5 years. I think he's that good. Given the right machinery, he could really impress.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him. I've actually been impressed with the rookie field in general this year. The likes of Isaac Hadjar, Bortoletto has been under the radar for a lot of the season, but has done really, really nicely. I'm a big Liam Lawson fan, and I think how he bounced back from that early disappointment and has actually re-established his Formula One career, I think has been very, very impressive. But Ollie, I really like him. I like the way, as you said, Jenny, that he approached Saudi Arabia last year and stepped in really at the 11th hour and did so magnificently. That shows his potential. That shows his prowess. But I can't believe he's so close to a race ban. Because I can't recall anything egregiously bad that he's done this year. So to have amassed that many points, just it blows my mind.
It's all just sort of quietly built up.
Yeah.
He'll drop a couple in Brazil, and actually, it's something we do talk about. So without further ado, here is episode 4 of When Harry Met Ollie. Okay, Ollie, we've caught you just after your press conference. We're outside your Haas hospitality. We've been catching up with you throughout the year, so it's nice to see you again. First of all, though, I just want to know, have you seen the hit BBC TV show Traitors? Do you know about it?
No.
No, you don't. So basically,
No.
it's a bit of a game where people either have to deceive or the people who are trying to get money. They're the faithfuls, and then there's traitors who are deceiving the faithfuls and murdering them. Not in real life, but it's a game. So my
Right.
question to you is, would you be a traitor or a faithful?
Faithful.
You'd be a faithful?
I'm very faithful.
Really? You sure?
Why you
I don't know.
seem
I don't know.
convinced.
Well, my follow-up is 10 penalty points. That's a bit traitor behaviour.
Yeah. No, that I feel a bit hard done by that.
Yeah.
I'm very faithful.
Okay, we'll give you to that. But last time I saw you didn't have all those penalty points. It is it is the elephant in the room. But has it been playing on your mind when you're going racing? I think you lose a couple in Brazil, so not too far away.
Yeah, exactly. Looking forward to Brazil, of course. No, it's been a shame that I end up at that stage. Definitely, I've earned some and deserve to have some, but also I feel like a good few have been a little bit hard done by. I felt a bit hard done by, so just looking forward to removing some in Brazil and being able to, be back to normal.
Yeah, be a weight off. Now, I asked you last time what would you have hoped to achieve by Austin, and you said to score some points. That has been achieved with a pretty good drive last time out in Singapore to 9th. I mean, that was a really good effort from you, but super important points for the team as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main thing. It's important points for the team. We're getting closer to where we want to be. This weekend we have an upgrade on the car, so hopefully that can give us some even more points.
What could you tell me about the upgrades? Go on, give us a little tease.
9/10 per lap.
9/10?
Yeah, maybe
Behrman
a
on
second
pole.
if it goes well. So should be winning the championship now.
Okay, fine. The other thing, though, that has been declared, I think, this morning, and it is a bit muggy now, we've got another heat hazards. So we're going to be seeing the cooling vests back out. How did you get on with it in Singapore? You raced with it, didn't you?
Yeah, pros and cons. On the positive side, it's very cold when you first get in the car. But I was in a lot of pain after the race because the material is quite itchy. And also, I feel like when it melts, it's maybe even worse to have it because it's, it's just cycling hot water around. So pros and cons.
Fine, okay.
I'll let you know.
Well,
how it is here.
we look forward. Yeah, well, I think Singapore, everyone looked quite red-faced at the end of it.
Yeah, me included.
So we'll see how you go on with it. Okay. I want to just look ahead to next year, 2026. How deep into preparations for that are you now? You're looking forward to the big reset, basically.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Honestly, not as deep as I would like to be at this stage. We don't get much opportunity to use the simulator. So at this stage I haven't done any sim for 2026. So December and January will be incredibly busy making sure that we're ready for when that comes.
Now we have, I believe, hopefully one more scheduled meeting, and then we finish your rookie season in Abu Dhabi. It's come round quick.
Where's the next one?
Well, Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be the last time I see you.
Yeah,
It's only
every more points by then.
Well, exactly. Is that you can't have that as the aim? Come on, that's your last aim.
That's an
When
easy
I
aim.
see you in Abu Dhabi,
Podium.
and podium in Abu Dhabi, Behrman on the podium. But how do you want to look back at your rookie year when you get to Abu Dhabi? And
I think
I'll ask you it again.
since the summer break, I've made some really good improvements. And I've been really happy with my performances since the summer break, and I feel like I've really been building on those. So really from now until Abu Dhabi, I want to continue to build on that and see another step from the summer break to now. I want another step from now to Abu Dhabi.
Okay, right, we'll mark that and we'll come back
Write
to you in
that
Abu
one
Dhabi. Final question for you, Ollie. We have to obviously acknowledge the fact you're racing for Haas, American team in America. It's the second US race. Are you feeling maybe not pressure, but are you feeling how big it is that Formula One is in America? It feels like it's really cracked the US now, and do you feel it more so racing for an American team?
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there in America, and there's some cool stuff coming up as well for us in America, which I'm really excited for. So I've got high hopes for this weekend. I would say it adds extra determination, not pressure, but determination, and hopefully we can make a good weekend out of it. I've got high hopes.
Nice one. All right, Ollie, I shall see you, hopefully, at Abu
you in
Dhabi,
Abu Dhabi on the
and we'll
podium.
finish your rookie year.
Thanks.
Right, so we've still got a bit of time left here on 5 Live F1. It's been, as well, a good few weeks for George Russell. He finished top of the pile in Singapore and now has finally put pen to paper on a new contract at Mercedes. Well, this is obviously the breaking news that came into this weekend, really. It kind of just sort of confirmed what we're all expecting, but we don't know exactly how long for this contract with George Russell, or do we? What's the rumour?
That's the key thing here, and it was framed very much in the press release around the announcement around 2026 next season. Nothing further than that. We understand he does have a longer term contract, but is it a 1+1 or 1+2? But I think this is very indicative of the fact we are moving into a new generation with Formula One in 2026, brand new set of regulations. So it makes sense for teams and drivers alike to hold something back, hold an option back, that if the car doesn't quite come up to expectations, they maybe have an escape. But no, look, George, Kimi Antonelli being at Mercedes, I don't think it was ever really in question. I never believed all of the Max Verstappen rumours that came out earlier this season. It seemed mad to me, because it didn't make sense to get rid of either one of them at this point in time. George is having a phenomenal season. Kimi just needs some more time to really get his comfort level in Formula One. But no, a breakout year for George. And as Toto Wolff has said, George has for so long in Formula One lived under the shadow of Lewis Hamilton, who casts one of the biggest shadows you could imagine as one of the all-time greats of this sport. But George has really stepped up into this team leader role now. And I think, a deserved contract extension. But for how long?
For how long indeed? Well, I'll tell you what, let's hear from George. He spoke to Jen a few moments ago.
George, I'm assuming you've kept your options open when it comes to the future after next year and seeing who's at the top of the pack. But when it comes to actually managing you and Toto and the contracts and how that all falls into place, you've said in the past it wasn't a very easy union because you're negotiating with your own manager.
Yeah.
So what have you done to try and resolve that going forward, and how is that going to play out in the future?
I mean, I'm not going to go into details on that, but I think for any team driver combination, a driver needs to be happy and feel that you sort of got the support of the team behind you to allow you to deliver your best. I think that goes, in any single industry. You look at football with the manager, player, or in F1 with the boss and the drivers, and vice versa. And we've got this common goal of winning and bringing Mercedes back on top. And Toto has been very generous with the proposal, and he didn't need to be. He could have, if he wanted, to have been much harsher, but he hasn't, because he recognised, he wants to reward me for the job I've done, and he wants to make sure that I'm in the best place possible for the upcoming year, and that's what he's done. So that's why I'm here with a smile on my face and excited for the future.
George Russell, then future confirmed. Jenny, I mean, this has been his best season so far. Surely, if it wasn't before solidified, now can we say a champion in waiting?
Well, I mean, that's bold. That's very bold, Harry. You're
Will
putting
Buxton
it
next
right
to me is
out there.
absolutely shaking his
Champion
head.
waiting.
Do you not
I
think,
would
with the
say
right
he's-
machinery under him?
Look, all of these drivers with the right machinery under them say they could be a world champion. Some of them I believe, others I'm not entirely sure. I spoke to Fernando Alonso, as we're here in Aston Martin, last time in Singapore, and he looked at me and said, if I have the right machinery, I can be world champion. I've heard countless drivers say it to me before. I believe Alonso. I am not sure if I 100% believe George's capability of being a world champion. I think he's brilliant, but could he be a world champion? Who knows? Who knows?
Okay, all right then. Go on, Gal. Also, you're probably wondering why we didn't hear from Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris earlier. There is good reason for that. This time is a bit awkward. All the drivers are actually kind of either engaged with media or in the press conference, but you can hear them once this is up on BBC Sounds in the form of our Checkered Flag podcast, so you'll be able to hear them in full. Right, let's talk about what we might see on track this weekend then. And new feature alerts, although I don't think we've quite sorted the jingle for it yet, but introducing Jen's Strategy Corner, or as we've been calling it in the production meeting, JSC. Over to you, Jen.
And that's not to be confused with the VSC, because that's something very different. But I thought, when it comes to strategy, why should I batter on about it? I will get one of the pros of the paddock to tell us more. So I have Peter Hall here, Head of Race Strategy at Aston Martin. Now, just tell me, when it comes to strategy this weekend, it's a sprint weekend for a start. What are you thinking about when it comes to the weekend? What preparation have you had to do?
Yeah, so with any race, we start off by looking at what happened last year and we combine that with the information we know about the cars from this year. Are they behaving differently? Are the tyres in general a bit different? We look at the weather forecast. Is the track going to be hot? Is there rain coming along? And has the track changed at all? Has the track surface changed? We then have to put that back through all of our simulations, try and understand, are the tyres going to behave a bit differently, and how's that going to change the base strategy?
So this weekend we've got the C1, then we miss the C2 and just go straight to the C3 and C4. C1 has never raced here before, that's the hardest compound. So how are you predicting that's going to have an effect?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. So the C3, the middle compound last year, was probably the best tyre in the race for all drivers. The other one, the hard, was usable and good for the race and did some good long stints. So it's going to be a real challenge for everyone to see whether that extra step harder is going to just make it a little bit too low grip, a little bit too slow to use in the race, and you're going to be relying on the soft tyres more, and can you make up an extra 21-second pit loss through using an extra set of softs or mediums?
And when it comes to challenges of Austin, what are the key things that you're going to have to be really alert of?
Yeah, that big one about moving between a 1 and a 2 stop, not getting caught out. It's a track where it's quite easy to pass if you've got the right tyre advantage. So not getting caught on the wrong strategy and having someone fly past you after they've stopped again and just ending up too late to realise that things are moving a bit differently from where you expect. And also, we've not had it recently for the last few years here, but safety cars are always going to be a big thing. If you get a safety car at the wrong time and you're out on old tyres and everyone else is on new, it's going to be very, very difficult around here to stay in front.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. That's my section done, and I think I've done some good help.
Oh, I think it's the beginning of big things. Jen's Strategy Corner. We'll get a jingle sorted. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us. Right, we've got a few minutes left, I think. Enough for a couple of predictions. Shall we get a sprint win prediction and a Grand Prix win prediction, Mr. Buxton?
Max Verstappen and Max Verstappen. Well, here's the thing, Jenny. Let's cast our minds back to 2008. A season in which two McLaren drivers were fighting out for the Formula One World Championship in the form of Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. Various controversies throughout the year. Neither one of them won it, and the guy who came through and won ultimately didn't give a damn one way or the other whether he won the championship, and that was Kimi Räikkönen. So I see the same thing happening this year. McLaren drivers fight it out to the last, and the guy who doesn't give a damn, Max Verstappen, comes through and wins the title. He will start that this weekend with a double win in the sprint and the Grand Prix.
Wow, that is so bold. That's why we love having you back. I love that so much. I'm going to go Norris because he's got a small advantage, a bit of momentum on his side. And I think whoever wins the sprint will go on and win the actual race as well. So I see a clean sweep for someone, and that someone for me is Norris.
Okay, well, those are our predictions then ahead of the weekend. Let's see who gets closest, or indeed gets them absolutely spot on. That is us done. Lots more F1 action to come your way on the 5 Live network throughout the weekend. Thanks to Jolien, Andrew, Jen, and Will, and everybody who's joined us over the last hour. Sunday's race will be live on 5 Live, lights out at 8 p.m. Jen's going to be soaking up all the atmosphere on the grid from 7:30. I hear Glenn Powell is going to be there. Very exciting. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.